So Stephanie White is going to be on Subird's podcast tomorrow. So it's going to be an interesting listen, and there's my opinions on Stephanie White are very it's not being hidden that my opinions on Stephanie White are mixed on this channel. But I do think that Stephanie White is obviously a good coach. I don't think anyone should question that one. She's a good coach, and there is no way in hell that Stephanie White, the players don't like Caitlin Clark, and Caitlin Clark likes Stephanie White. So I fully believe that it needs to be. I don't think Stephanie White is the right long-term coach for Caitlin Clark. I stand by that. And I don't think Stephanie White, I think she wants to mold Caitlin Clark into a completely different player to what Caitlin Clark is. And that's kind of my issues with Stephanie White, and always has been my issues with Stephanie White. I think there are flaws. She's not this flawless coach, and no coach is a flawless coach. Not every coach is suited for every specific player. I personally don't believe Gina Auriemma was the right coach for Paige Bueckers. I don't think Paige Bueckers has found the right coach to get the best out of Paige Bueckers. I believe that Teresa Weatherspoon was the right coach for Angel Reese. I don't think Tyler Marsh is the right coach for Angel Reese. Even though I think Tyler Marsh is a better coach than Teresa Weatherspoon. So it is an interesting when we're talking about these players. But it is going to be interesting to see what Stephanie White says, because there is clearly, and it's mutual, by the way, Caitlin Clark adores Stephanie White. And I don't think anyone will ever question that as a person, as a coach. What Stephanie White did last year was extremely good. What Stephanie White was doing, and what Stephanie White did was she had she couldn't put in her system. And this is my whole thing with Stephanie White, is that she was saying last year, we were this good and we couldn't even run our system. We couldn't even run our sets. But I'm like, man, you weren't good at the start of the year when you were running your system. That was the thing. When you just let them go freestyle, they look good. And that was what Christy Sides had to realize, that putting this basketball team in a box isn't going to work out. You've got to let them play free. And they had learned to play with that freedom, playing with Caitlin. And it made Kelsey better, made Aaliyah better, made all these players better, playing with freedom. And I don't know if Stephanie White wants to kind of box them in. Either way, though, it will have to be a certainty that Stephanie White is not the answer. Until the day Stephanie White is done is when people start to suggest to trade Caitlin Clark. The day that it becomes an actual argument point that in the current system, the team is better without Caitlin Clark. And I don't think people saying they made the semi-finals. They didn't face anyone nearly as good as the Connecticut Sun last year. That last year's Connecticut Sun team would have walked the championship. But until that day happens, Stephanie White will be the coach. I don't see Stephanie White coaching past 2027. I think she's going to get one more full season, and just to see if it's going to work, and it's going to be results based. I think she's going to be in the job. My guess would be maybe 3 seasons, and I think that one game off the finals, there is a possibility that's the best. That's the closest Stephanie White's going to get to the finals for the Fever. Either way, though, let's take a listen to what Stephanie White said. This is just in a little clip. What to expect.
And with Caitlin, she's a hard worker because of what she's been able to accomplish. But until you see that there's no wasted movements, no wasted reps, no wasted anything, you just have such a level of respect for how she goes about her work every day. And understanding the spotlight that she's on, understanding the weight that she carries because of who she is. And she's literally like Taylor Swift 2.0. And that somehow she's able to compartmentalize and come to the gym, get everything that she has to get done. She's off doing everything all the time, but when she's there, she's working.
And I absolutely have no doubt that Stephanie White, there are a lot of people, and I stand by this. I really like Venom. I really, really like Venom. I get on well with him. And it's at the end of the day, this is pure basketball talk. I love Venom. We don't agree on anything. We agree on nothing. Really like this guy. Go obviously support his YouTube channel. But few types of people in the world, those who analyze what you say, those who analyze what you do. And Venom has absolutely analyzed. And I think he's been right that he's come to an analysis to say that Stephanie White isn't the right coach for Caitlin Clark and isn't a good coach for Caitlin Clark. And I actually fully agree with almost all of his analysis. I'm of the opinion that Stephanie White is just, not that she's trying to sabotage Caitlin, that she fully believes Caitlin Clark would be better if she turned into Paige Bueckers. Like, I think she's trying to turn Caitlin into Paige. When you realistically, Caitlin, when she's not Caitlin, isn't. And people say it's a bad thing. Like, when I'm like, Caitlin's not great off the ball. When Caitlin's not trying to be Caitlin. When Caitlin's trying to be someone else, she's not good. And people are saying that like it's a huge negative thing of like it's a huge negative thing. But like it's not. Like saying that LeBron James is bad if you asked LeBron James to play the Steph Curry role, he'd be terrible at it. If you asked Steph Curry to do what LeBron does, he'd be terrible at it. Like, players are a collective or a collection of their strengths and their weaknesses and what they do well and what they don't do well. And if you make a player, if your system has a player playing to most teams playing against the Fever want Caitlin Clark playing off the ball. They want the ball out of her hands. And Stephanie White wants the ball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. It's as simple as that. But I do want to say is that I stand by the fact that I think Stephanie White fully believes Caitlin Clark would be better. The team would be better if she had Paige Bueckers. Like, I think that. And I think she's trying to mold Caitlin Clark into the point guard that she wants, rather than molding her system to Caitlin Clark. And I think there's going to be some pushback on that. And we've heard it from Caitlin Clark when she was like, oh, I'm going to have to set more screens and I need to push back harder. I need to push back harder and start pushing the pace more. Like, there have been times, definitely, like, when Caitlin Clark, I'm not going to necessarily say that she threw Stephanie White under the bus, but definitely you could tell she wasn't happy with some of the coaching decisions, but there was a level of respect there that she went with them anyway. It wasn't like a Christy Sides thing where Caitlin just ignored her. And I think there has to be a world where there is an adaptation or they adapt. Like we saw it with Leah Boston. Leah Boston adapted her game to suit Caitlin Clark, and Leah became second best center in the W. Best if you don't include if you think age is a power forward. And then Caitlin did adapt her game slightly, definitely after coming in from Iowa in that first season. And it's just now, I think if you've got either side being stubborn, if you've got Steph White being stubborn on this motion offense, if you've got Steph White being stubborn on what she's doing, like it's just not going to work. And it seems like the more stubborn of Steph White and Caitlin Clark is Steph White, and that takes away from Caitlin Clark. And we have to be honest, like if Caitlin's not being Caitlin, why are we watching? Like, I mean this, why are we watching? It's vomit basketball. Like, if Caitlin's not being Caitlin, why are we watching the Indiana Fever? There are plenty more exciting teams watching WNBA than the Fever if Caitlin's not being Caitlin. So, look, I don't know. Obviously, it is one of those things where, from a non-basketball perspective, it is clear that there is not only, like, as people, there is a level of respect with Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark. And even as a coach, whereas even if Caitlin Clark isn't happy with the offense, you can see that, like, there is a level of respect there for what Stephanie White says. There's a level of respect there with Caitlin and Austin Kelly, with Caitlin and Breanna January. And like it is one of those things where you're looking at this team and I'm like, as a fan, I am worried because I don't think Caitlin's going to fully back down. I'm worried Caitlin's not going to be Caitlin. And if Caitlin Clark's trying to be anyone other than Caitlin Clark, she's average. She just becomes average. Like, and Caitlin doesn't have to score 30 a game. Caitlin Clark's points per game average, I think she averaged 16 points per game last year. Like, Caitlin Clark could average 16 points per game and 12 assists per game and win a championship. She doesn't need to average 25. But it's playing through Caitlin. That's the problem with Steph White's motion offense, is that it doesn't play through Caitlin. It plays through Kelsey Mitchell. And if you play through Kelsey Mitchell, there is a ceiling you're going to reach. Unless you shithouse your way to a win, you're not really going to win. Like by forcing the other team to drag them down to their level and win by individual ISO greatness. Unless you shithouse your way to win, you're not going to win playing through Kelsey Mitchell. Whereas Kelsey Mitchell can average 30 points a game if you play through Caitlin Clark to Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston. Through Caitlin and Aaliyah to Kelsey Mitchell, and you surround that team with defensive shooters. You don't need any more firepower. You don't need any more max contract players. Overpaying Alana Smith. But yeah, that's just pretty much it. Obviously, this became like a basketball talk, but it is also one of those things that I do always want to say when it comes to a lot of the criticism I have of Stephanie White is that there is when I'm talking about Stephanie White, like, look, does she lie to the media nonstop? Yes. Do I call her a snake oil saleswoman? Like, she literally will just say what the media wants to hear? Yes, obviously. Is she a good coach? Duh. Is she the right coach for Caitlin Clark? I don't think so, but I think you've got we have to have a full year of them healthy before we can make that decision. It's too early to make that decision. And Stephanie White did too good a job to get fired coming into next season. And I think, I don't know. Like, I think there is a world, there's actually is a world where Stephanie White turns Caitlin Clark, like, gets Caitlin Clark to stop doing what she's good and becomes average, and they choose Steph White over Caitlin Clark. There is a world where that happens as well. So yeah, anyway, that's the video. I'll see you guys.